Gun violence doesn't know ward boundaries. You asked me, what do I think about gun violence in my ward? I don't think anything about gun violence in my ward. I think about gun violence in general, gun violence in the city of Evanston, and gun violence in Chicago.
There needs to be a better mechanism or communication tool to effectively communicate with these underprivileged or these individuals who need these resources. And that right now there's not.
Sad. It is sad, man. But I hope it stops. But you know, Chris, it's all over. It's not just in Evanston.
You know, Evanston's a really small town. When one person is impacted by violence, we all are. People don't realize how closely connected they are to some of these murders. These are our families, these are our children, these are our brothers, these are our sons. We can't remove ourselves from it.
It's been nearly 5 months since Crossfire claimed the life of an incoming Northwestern doctoral student.
A Northwestern University doctoral student was shot and killed last weekend just 4 hours after arriving in Chicago.
Chicago police say he was walking near Clark and Howard Streets as two people started shooting at each other. Columbo was caught in the crossfire.
Good to me. No, come here. Turn around. Oh.
We met in our undergrad, so we both went to San Francisco State. At the time, I was an alumni in this fraternity, Alpha Sigma Phi, and he was a pledge during that time, and he was coming in and I was going out. And we had met, and I thought, this guy's gross. And next thing you know, we started talking, and I hit him up on Messenger, and I was like, hey, like, do you ever want to hang out? And he's like, yeah, I'd love that, I'm sure. And I remember distinctly, like, him and I texting, just exchanging music ideas and whatnot. And I actually, he 1 year for our anniversary, he gave me a photo of it, of the first day we started talking. You have to do this like whole pledge wig thing, and so they have to essentially serenade the sororities, and he started singing to me. It was at that moment that I knew I was going to marry this guy.
There's still some other aspect of information that tells us something about this population specifically.
He was doing fellowships at UCSF, and he got a fellowship at SF State. I think he was summa cum laude at his school, and he also did community service, and he was also doing dance. Like, when we met, he was candy striping at the hospital and going to church and doing these things to self-fulfill himself. To be able to do all these things and still be authentic and have fun and live life is beautiful. I flew out to New York to spend like Christmas Eve with him. On my birthday, I was like, I'm gonna propose to him. He's like, well, I really wanted to take you to this art installation, and we were in the middle of it. And it's just like the most beautiful thing in the world. It's snowing, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Then I pull it out, and I explained to him, like, look, like, just know, like, right now I love you. And I proposed to him. He asked if I was gonna get on one knee. I said no, like we were equals. He says yes. So beautiful. Beginning of August, he had come and visited and tried to get some stuff situated for the condo. And I remember like distinctly in Costco, grabbing a box of hangers. I'm like, oh, he doesn't need this, right? Come a week later, and he's flying from Southern California to Chicago. He's like, I need to go run errands. And I'm like, no, babe, like, you should relax. Like, I have everything in the house you need for right now. Like, you can focus on those things tomorrow. He's like, I really want to go buy hangers. Not even 15 minutes later, we had finished our Skype call. I was literally in the middle of packing. So I looked at his location, and it said he was in the hospital. And then I remember like calling the hospital. I'm like, hey, is there a Shane Columbo here? The nurse was just like, oh, one moment, please. And it's the doctor, and he's like, I'm sorry, your partner just passed away like 5 minutes ago. And I was like, you're lying. And I asked my friends, like, how was I that day? Like, what did I do? And they're like, all you would say is how handsome he was. I was very angry, and effectively now, like, I have PTSD about those days. Like, there are moments where I will have something will play, and I go back to that day, or I'll eat something, and I just think about those days. I couldn't even get my flight together. I was just like, I need to see him, like, he's alone. So that was really hard to imagine. And so I just remember, like, my friends just buying me a flight. They're like, don't worry about it, we got you. Like, okay. And I just remember just sitting on this plane, sitting in the airport, like, sitting in the car, just, like, drained. Like, I will never get to see his tattoo, you know. We'll never get to hear his laugh in person. I will never get to cook for him. I will never get to take care of him again. That fucks with your head.
We could take a pause if you're happy.
Oh, it's fine. I've been crying all week. You have to understand, like, being able to feel is important. Being able to move on and progress is the ability to hold every single emotion in a container. You know, you exist to hold all these emotions, and sometimes they spill out, you know, and that's okay. When I had moved here, I was more so, I didn't give myself the time to cry. Because I was so preoccupied with getting things ready and trying to make sure everything else was okay. And now I found myself, like, crying at every single moment. Like, no matter what, like, it doesn't matter if I take a pause, because I don't get to take a pause. I don't get to stop. And if I want to, it's because I'm living authentically and I'm having fun, or I'm incorporating him in some way in my life. But it's like, this is what I need to feel right now, and I've been suppressing it for so long. It's been awful. And so I think that's why now I cried at the airport, you know, I cried in my Uber, like, I cried, like, eating a donut because I thought of him. And, you know, it just sucks, man.
Oh, it was like when I was 33 years old. Found out I was going to have a son, actually. Star was the baby. He was the love of my life. You know what Star would do when he, like, come in the house? He would like, Mom, I love you. Star was just one of those kids, man. He said, I'm going to go to school to learn to drive truck. And that's what he said he wanted to do. But he was too young to start the class. It started like 21. So he said, Mom, I can make some money. I'll buy you a big house. No, he said, Mom, I think it's a lot going on in California. It's a lot, you can do whatever you want to do. You know, it's a lot. I love it. And we went and we visited, and he just fell in love. The last time I saw Star, it was that Tuesday morning, about 5 o'clock. So I got up and I went to the washroom. I said, you still up? He said, yes, because I'm not going to work. And when I went home Tuesday evening, it was about, let's say maybe 5:30. Wednesday morning, he was in his room playing game. Okay, I said, okay, I'll see you later. He said, okay, Mom. Okay. So I come home Wednesday evening. He was in his room. I wasn't worrying about it. 11 p.m. now. I was like, Friday morning. I was like, what's going on here? You know, I was wondering. Okay, get off work 5 now. Driving home, get to Harvard Terrace. A bunch of police and detective and crime scene tape around the building. Not worrying about that. So I have some stuff, you know, in my car, the back of my car, so I wanted to bring it upstairs. You know, I put them all down at my door, so my door slapped open. I was like, damn. I mean, a bunch of detectives was in my house, police. They asked me, do I live here? I said, sure. They said, what's your son's name? I said, Star. They said to me, he deceased. I was like, what? I was still standing at the door. I said, deceased? They said, yes. I said, do you mean die? They said, yeah. I said, where, how, why? You know, right there, I remember I asked that question. And a lady said to me, come on in, I can help you. I think it's a counselor, you know. I remember I said to her, no, you can't. And I grab his stuff because I have some food for him that I brought at the store. And I threw them in the trash, and I went back and I pulled the rest of the stuff in, and that's where I started praying. I remember I prayed for quite a while, like almost 10 minutes. The detectives, them were sitting down waiting on me. They were just waiting on me. I was just praying to God and asking Him to give me strength, you know, to go through what I'm gonna be going through.
Mayor Elizabeth Tisdale and I went and met with her, you know, hours after his body was discovered. Another case of nobody knew nothing. People have to talk. People know things, but they're not saying anything. And that's why we have so many unsolved young people crying.
That family is just really devastated and really hurting. I spoke to his mom not very long ago, who lived in that building. You know, she really wants closure.
I just love my son, you know. Still loving Star, never stop love, but I think he's in a better place now. I know he is. He's at peace with himself. Sometimes I sit there and I say, oh my God, how did he just like that, you know? Didn't even have time to say bye, you know? It's such a senseless violence and a senseless killing, you know? But he's always gonna be in my heart. That's my only son, and that's my baby too. 19 years old, man. Have the whole of his life in front of him.
There's a systemic issue with the resources we allocate to people who need them, you know? A portion of it, yes, is gun violence. I've been directly affected by gun violence, and that fucking sucks. But you also have to look at it from a bigger picture point of view. Because that single point, like if you see a point here, what is the actual point converging to? There's violence, there's access to resources, there's educational systems, there's politics. Like, the thing I want to see is more so people like us who are younger advocating for better resources for people who need them.
Kids getting out of school, finding job, or finding something for them to do. So you can get them off the street. And then another thing, for Black youth to feel good about themselves. They need more help in Evanston, definitely.
This is an injustice to the communities and the services to the people who actually need help. You know, like, what are we doing to make sure these people don't need to feel like they need to carry a gun? What are we doing as a city to make sure this never happens again? Grief is always going to fit differently at different times in your life. It's just a matter of learning how to wear it better. And I think I'm in that phase where, I don't want to say I'm happy, I think I'm in a better place than I am now. Like, there are happy moments, especially when I can derive them from my experience with Shane or with my family or anything of nature. But I think right now I'm better than I was, and I'm progressing forward.
Oh yeah, you know, after a while it gets easier. It doesn't go away. but it get easier. I'm not gonna say pretty much, I give the person who killed Star. I just want him to turn himself in, to face whatever he did, but trust me, I don't have an ounce of hate in my heart for that person that did that to Star. I pray for whosoever did that to Star. I pray for him. I cannot go around with hate in my heart. Definitely, I know I can't. And you cannot move on. And that's what I would like to tell a lot of people that, have people lose their kids or family or friends or whatever. Trust me, you have to find that in your heart. I know for some people it's very hard. Forgiveness doesn't come so fast. Forgiveness is not so easy. It's a hard thing to do. But you got to think about yourself. Because if you don't do that for you, nobody going to do that for you.
The thing that I can do to honor him the most is live my life the way he lived his. Curious and playful and always learning. And if there's any piece of advice I can give anybody, it's like, don't be afraid to tell someone that you need something.
Yeah, was there anything else that you wanted?
I love you, Shane.